Great to have you all on the call today. The purpose of today's call really is that I really want to, hi Ian, the more and more clients I work with, the more I find in a lot of cases that the primary challenge of people I meet isn't grow your business, I want my business to grow bigger. It's, my goodness, I need to get home and see my family. Or, you know, this is, I remember speaking to someone and he said, yeah, that's exactly why I got my first wife divorced me. I've just met someone new. I'm not having that happen again. And families falling apart through business and is a terrible thing. And I know from my experience of working in a business that I wasn't in control of, as I described it with a client this morning, an empty husk of a man. And I know what that was like being at I remember my kid's first nativity play, and I was sat there with 2 mobile phones at the back, texting and emailing and sweating and not concentrating. And I just, thought that I could put out some resources that would help people in that situation. Maybe not as, they may be on a sliding scale of extremeness on that, but that would be useful. So I'm going to dive right into it. I'm just going to share screens because I will use these slides. So first of all, the place I found myself in, when was it? 8 years ago, I think, when I was sat there in that nativity play, is I was putting out all the fires in the business. I was running around dealing with everything, and I hadn't trusted or trained my people enough to deal with things. So then they make mistakes, which I then went and fixed as well, whilst grumbling and of course blaming them the entire time, when of course, when you point one finger forward, there's 3 pointing straight back at you. And so I found that I was in that place too. And when you mismanage your money, you go overdrawn, and you use the bank's money. When you mismanage your time, you go overdrawn and you use your family's time. And whether you may be there in person, but you might not be there in mind because you can't switch off. And there's so many people I speak to that are in that situation or have been in that situation too. And give us a nod if you are or have been in that situation at some point, or a wave. Yeah, I think most people in that situation. Good. Not good that you were in the situation, but good that we're talking around the right subject. So lots of people say they're working hard. And I actually not disagree, but I present it slightly differently. And that in a lot of cases, people are working long. They're repeating the same mistakes over and over again. It was Einstein, of course, that said that the definition of lunacy is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Complaining about the same people over and over again. I've got a rule within my clients that if we moan about someone 3 times, then we've got to take some action about it, or just bloody well shut up moaning about it, because otherwise we could be doing that over and over again. Now, I find a lot of people, where the day runs them, they go into work, into the office, or at their kitchen table, wherever it is, and they open up the laptop with no idea of what they're intending to achieve that day, to look into their inbox, so that their inbox can decide for them what it is that they're doing that day. Being the center of everything as well is a challenge. And if you don't trust your people enough to make decisions, then you'll be in the middle of it. And then the phone will be going all the time. That's why it's working long. So working long hours, it's exhausting, it's stressful. But the challenge is that that's the easy way. So many people are doing it because it's easier to extend into the evening and do emails in the evening or at weekends than it is to be efficient in the daytime and work with your team and get them working more efficiently. And that's the challenge that I throw out there. And I know it's exhausting, I know it's stressful, but it's actually the easy way, that because we naturally gravitate towards the easy way. And that is what's happening. So by my definition, working hard is learning new ways of working. It's hiring the right people to do the job, and in some cases making the decision to fire the wrong people. That's working hard. That's the thing that people avoid. And when you're moaning about Debbie in the office over and over and over again, it's a refusal to make a decision. In fact, I often say to clients, being busy is always a refusal to make a decision on something. And if you are feeling busy, ask yourself the question, what decision am I refusing to make right now? So other definitions of working hard is delegating effectively, writing out positional contracts so that your team have got absolute clarity on what they're going to be, what they need to be doing, and how they're going to be measured on it. Managing your team effectively and in a robust fashion. Management's very unfashionable at the moment because leadership, everyone wants to be a leader and not a manager. But if you've got all leadership and no management, then you've got loads of really motivated people running around cocking things up all the time. And management is really important. Running the day yourself is important. Being proactive, deciding in advance what it is that you got to work at, and being disciplined. Now, all of those things I would consider working hard, whereas the other page is working long. And working hard is harder than working long, but it takes less time. It's ultimately more satisfying, and it is more effective to the business. Because the challenge is, if you're working long in your business, you're the bottleneck in the business that's stopping it grow. And that's the truth of the matter. By the way, feel free, we've got quite a small group today, so feel free to, if you've got a question, give me a wave or something like that. I do like some feedback, so give me some thumbs up and nods and things like that as we go through. So what I've done is I've put through some 5 simple things that I consider working hard to stop you from working long. I'm going to run through those now, if that's okay with everyone. So the first thing is creating discipline. Now, the discipline to keep the main thing the main thing, I don't know if you heard that phrase, is the main thing is to keep the main thing, and not get distracted off the path of deciding what's really, really crucial to bring your business forward, and sticking to it. And the first thing that can distract us from that is what's called the instant gratification monkey. Now, these damn things are the first thing. Who gets distracted by these in the daytime? Give me a nod or a wave. As I was creating this this presentation, every time I hit a roadblock, I could feel my hand twitching towards it. When you thinking stops. Anyone else get that? When you just find a hard bit, you go, "Oh, I'll just check Facebook." When it's just so not necessary, just to stay in that moment. But the thing is, what we're now used to getting is a dopamine fix. We get dopamine. I'm having these challenges with my kids at the moment playing these games because they get massive dopamine hits and from them, and the brains just can't cope with them. It's really, really addictive. And as humans, we get addicted to dopamine, especially when we hit a little blockage and then we just pick up the phone. So I saw a great tip the other day of instead of trying to deprive yourself of checking to see what somebody else has eaten for lunch on Facebook, just say, when you feel yourself twitching towards it, just go, "I'll do that in 10 minutes. I'll do it in 10 minutes. And of course, in 10 minutes, you're probably back in flow again. Really, really, if you find yourself going into that place, "I'll do it in 10 minutes. So you're not saying no to yourself, which is the important part. Just say that you'll do it again. So another thing that the instant gratification monkey will distract people to in their business is being important, being significant in the business. Some people, and not every character trait has this, but some people just get addicted to being needed and being wanted and being important in their business. So they go and poke things, they go and interfere with things, they stop what they're doing to go and get involved in other people. And you know, in a lot of cases, they're better off just left on their own and you left on doing your thing. And it's important to recognize why it is that we're stepping out of what we're doing. Hi, Gary. The other thing is connection. I remember I hired an office in my previous business. I had a team of 5 or 6, I think. And because I was the boss, I had the office on my own over here, and they had the big room over there, and they all worked together, and they had fun and banter. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm a people person. So I would be working away in my office, and then after a period of time, I'd be peering around the corner of the office going, hey, what you doing? What are you getting on with? How's it going with the Sainsbury's job? And what's going on with this? And after a while, they just told me to bugger off and leave them alone. But I realized at the time that I was looking for connection. I wanted to connect with a human being, and that was distracting me from what I wanted to do. And the last thing is reward. We look for, if we feel that we're not getting a reward from the work that we're doing, we kind of act like big kids and like, oh, I want some sweeties. You want a reward for doing the stuff that you're doing. So it's important to plan those in, but of course for when you've finished, not for now. And I don't know about you, sometimes my instant gratification wants the reward a bit too soon. So can anyone relate to that? Yeah, good. So that's the first thing is the discipline to stay on the right path, is to keep the main thing. The next thing, part 2, is time. Of course, you can't manage time because time plods on regardless without you. But what you can do is manage self within that time. And running the day so that the day doesn't run you, having really specific lists of things that you want to achieve that day. And I always recommend that you do that the night before for 2 reasons, which just sound contradictory. One is that if you do it the night before, rather than on the morning of, when you leave the office at 5 o'clock, you can park it and you can go home, be present with the kids, because you know it's secured, it's written down somewhere, and you know that you've not forgotten anything. But conversely to that also, whilst if you have written it down and you've committed it to your main brain, your subconscious will work on it at the same time, and you'll wake up with a better idea of how to achieve that goal as well. Excuse me one second. Where was I? So structuring regular tasks is also really important. To make sure A, that they get done, and B, to give you a sense of urgency to know when they're supposed to be stopped. So if you've have a look at your figures for half an hour on a Monday and you've got something else planned the next bit, you'll spend half an hour on it and not do what I used to do, which was I used to enjoy looking at the numbers because it made me feel good. But actually it wasn't being productive. I was literally looking at them going, oh yeah, I can see I'm going to have some money in, yay. But I wasn't actually doing anything to get any more in. I was just satisfying myself in that respect. If I'd have given myself only a window of time to do that, either daily or weekly, that would have worked well. Structuring email time as well. I always get a bit of pushback on this. People say, oh, we want to respond to our customers in a timely fashion. And it depends on the rhythm of your business. Some of you on this call could respond to people once a day. Some of you on this call could probably do email sessions once every couple or 3 days, if you are really disciplined in it. Now, some of you may have to respond if your business is based on responding to people quite quickly. Then, okay, well, spend 10 minutes of every hour doing your emails and checking your emails. But for the other 50 minutes, turn them off and be focused. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you're checking them all day long, aren't you? As they come in. And the notification center is another massive distraction. Yes, Ian, do you have a question?
It's more of a point really from what you just said there. When you check your emails, when they used to pop up, it was such a temptation just to go and read them. So they come up in the bottom of the screen. So I turned that off. And now it's too distractive you just want to see what it is. Or I did anyway. So I don't know if anybody else has done it, but turn them off, turn off the notification. Brilliant.
So the last thing about managing time is creating what we call a default diary, which is as you can see the bottom right hand corner there's a version that's one of my clients' default diary. And I'm not sure you can see it at the bottom of the screen. The very last bit at the bottom of the screen says, forget about work and be with my family, which is just his way of reminding himself. But he's structured in his email time, his marketing time, and it's a default diary. Look, if something's on fire or you need to go and see a client, then you're going to shift things around. But if everything's as normal, that's what you're going to do. And there's not many people I know that don't need to spend more time on marketing their business. It's quite often we get so caught up with delivering for our clients that we don't spend a set amount of time getting new clients. Unless, like Liz, you're a marketer and all you do is marketing, in which case you're always marketing, just not for yourself. You forget yourself sometimes. Yeah, because quite often marketers are like a plumber with a leaky tap, as they do all the marketing for everybody except themselves. Happens a lot. So, number 3, structuring communications. Sometimes I sit in people's offices or boardrooms and I see these. We do a training and then the break happens and all the devices come out because I don't allow them in the session. And there's texts and WhatsApps and calls and emails going wrong, and they're all texting each other, and they're in the same room, and these things, all these multiple conversations are going on at the same time, and it seems a bit like, in Star Wars when you've got a laser battle and you've got like lasers shooting. It's like the conversations are going around that. It's completely chaotic. So taking control of how you communicate, and rather than blaming your team for always calling you, how about you have a conversation with your team and let them know when it's okay to call you and when it's not okay to call you. For example, in the default diary that I showed you in the last slide, one of the sections that I recommend that people put in there is called flexi time. So because you can't block out the whole day, because what happens if there's a quote you need to get out or something. So if you block, for example, half an hour of flexi time between 11 and 11:30 and an hour between 3 and 4, so you can tidy up of the day, then you can know that you can always put those things in. So when an opportunity to quote comes in, so okay, I've got some you don't have to completely drop everything you're doing because you've got some time later. The next thing I wrote there was stop blaming your team for how they communicate with you. Does anyone here operate my door is always open to my team? Yes, stop it. Never say that again. Like, if they want to speak to you, flexi time between 3 or 4 o'clock. Or if you're having structured meetings with them, like what I do with my clients, I've got a 5-point management system that I help them put in to manage their teams. And one of those is structured meetings. And everybody has their structured meeting. And what happens when they come in, hey, boss, I've had this great idea. Can it wait till our meeting on Monday? Yeah, it can. Brilliant. Talk to me then. And they email, hey, boss, what do you think of this? We email back. Brilliant. Bring it to the meeting. Bring it to the meeting because it's on you to be disciplined because you're leading it. But if the door's always open, what you're saying is, hey, anytime you want to be unproductive, come and see me. And if you're anything like me, then you'll encourage it because you like being important, you like being connected, you like chatting to people, and you don't like the spreadsheets or the marketing plan that you're working on. More than happy to have someone come in and interrupt you. So it's really important that if you're going to have those structured meeting times, that you then have the discipline to overcome that. So the phrases that I use is you systemize the routine and you humanize the exception. And that's a training that you can give to the team that says anything that's normal will fit in the system. Anything that's abnormal, we'll have to deal with. And it normally fits into the 80-20 rule. 80% of stuff's normal, 20% of stuff we're going to have to figure it out. And if you can train your team to know what's normal and what's not normal, if there's a safety issue, if there's customers screaming for blood but they haven't had their thing, well, that's an exception and we're going to deal with it. But anything else, bring it to the meeting. And you'll find that it just cuts the noise. But the important thing is, you're all leaders of your businesses here. It's a slightly distasteful phrase that I use, but the fish stinks from the head down. If you don't implement this discipline, it will not happen. So it has to come from you first. And you can't blame them for following your lead and allowing conversations to happen all over the place. Putting these structured conversations in place, just this one thing, I guaranteed in the emails I sent half a day a week for everybody. I imagine this one thing will do that. Does anybody, Rachel's got to go. Thanks, Rachel. I'll send you the recording. Does anybody here find that their entire, or a lot of their time is made up of just chit-chatting? No, not Ian, because he's grumpy, never talks to anyone. There's a lot of conversations that can be cut out. So the next point is clarity. Now, waggle, I call it. I'm taking a little bit of artistic license on those letters there. Waggle is what I call what a good job looks like. And having a good waggle will always save time and create efficiency in the business. And I came up with it once because I sat in a client's office, and one of his team came in and said, "Oh, I've done this," or "Here's the thing," and the managing director went, "Oh, okay, that's not really what I wanted," and then the guy left, and he then started to point the finger at the team. "Oh God, he's no bloody good. He's always doing stuff like that." But then I said to him, "Did you tell him exactly what a good job looked like when you gave him that task?" Because when we give a task, we've got expectations in our own mind that, of course, it's obvious, you tidy up at the end of the day before you leave site. Of course, it's obvious that you would let the client know when you arrive. Of course, it's obvious that you would send a copy out for their reference hard copy. But it might be obvious to you, it's not obvious to them. So what that client did from that day onwards, whenever he gave a task, he would take a little bit longer and he would complete what a good job looks like. And he'd just create a little form, whether it's via email or he'd have the guy write it down. If he's on the phone, he'd say, right, what a good job looks like is number 1, this, number 2, it's that. Number 3, it's that. And number 4, make sure you tidy up and tell your client, thanks very much for having us at the end of the day. It might seem obvious, but if you get in the habit of being clear, you'll get a lot more response. And I learned this from a guy who was, I think he was ex-SAS. It's when I was in the pub trade. And I'd gone to help him open up his pub in my early 20s when I was in the pub trade. And at the end of the night, me and him were standing at the end of the bar doing having a chat about how the night had gone. And I grabbed one of the bar staff and I said, "Oh, will you mop the bar, please?" So she mopped the bar, and then we walked over the bar and the floor, and it was all sticky. And she'd not done it properly. And of course, what did I do? I pointed the finger. I said, "She doesn't even know how to mop the floor. What an idiot." And then the guy, what he did, I always remember it. He grabbed another bartender over. He said, "Right, get a bucket of hot soapy water, starting at that end in a figure of 8 fashion, mop that bar thoroughly with the hot soapy water. When you get to the end, get rid of the water, put cold clean water in, clean the mop, go back, figure of 8, and get all the excess water off." Guess which one of us managed to get the floor cleanest? It always stuck in my mind. And of course, Ian will know from his military. So if you've got to be clear in what you're asking people to do, otherwise in that scenario, people get in trouble and hurt. And the army are great for that, and I learned that from him. And so I've created this thing. I call it Waggle, just so it's easy to remember. And maybe if you're Scandinavian, you might pronounce it like that. But what a good job looks like. So the next thing on the list is monkey management, and there's a picture of the book there that this comes from. Has anyone read that book? 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. Lots of no's. Oh, I've got a thumbs up from Ian. So it's a brilliant book. It's one of the first books I give clients quite often. Firstly, it's really quick and easy to get through. And what it says in the book is, firstly, it describes the person I described at the start of this session: overworked, stressed, doing all the work themselves. And it as an example, describes this Sasha just put about the chimp model, from Chimp Paradox. Chimps and monkeys I talk about a lot in different contexts. So in the context of this monkey, imagine you meet a member of your team at the water cooler, and you would say to them, hey, have you got that report that I asked for last week? And the team member says to you, no, because I'm waiting for a decision from you on the such and such project. And if you then say, okay, I'll get back to you with that, who's got the monkey? It's me. I've taken the monkey. The monkey is the next action. So as business owners, we collect them. We collect monkeys. I'll get back to you with that. Let me think about it. All that kind of stuff is, I'll let you know. Don't do anything until I've let you know about that. I'm going to go and think about that. We collect all these monkeys. Now, in the scenario I've just described, the better way to do it would be, okay, so we've got a decision to make before you can proceed with your project. So I'd like you to write up a quick list of pros and cons. Come and see me at 12 o'clock on Tuesday. That's my flexi time. And we'll run through the pros and cons, and then you'll get your decision, and then you can complete your piece of work. Because otherwise, that team member's walked away scot-free, and you've walked away with the monkey. And quite often the monkey is a low value task. And as the business owner, you only should be doing high value tasks. So it's important to make sure that they keep the monkeys that are theirs, and you're really careful about how many monkeys you take on. And that kind of leads on to the next point of understanding without the business the difference between accountability and responsibility. Responsibility is the person who does it. Accountability is the person who makes sure it's done. So in some cases, the same person might be accountable and responsible. But what happens is we make ourselves responsible for things, and then sometimes we avoid the accountability. So we get it completely the wrong way around. If you're in a small team, you might need to stay accountable. You might need to hold the highest level of accountability on a task, but make no mistake on who's got the responsibility to create it. And you can stay accountable in a really timely fashion by just I use Siri, and I say, hey Siri, she's probably going to pipe up in a minute. I say, hey Siri, remind me at 5 o'clock to check that Ian's done that report I asked him to do. That's all I have to do for accountability. The responsibility is still with them. And then I've set a reminder, and once I've set a reminder, I completely forget all about it. I'm disappointed with Siri. She's not perked up. She should be perking up because I haven't turned her off. But as soon as I've done it, I forget about it until 5 o'clock on Friday. I go, oh, Ian, where's my report? So then I can then speak to Ian and go, send him a message, Ian, where's my report? I'm accountable, but it's only taken a very short period of my time. That makes sense to everyone? Excellent. So the last part, now I'm going to draw this because it doesn't work if you can't build out the slides. So, number 5 is having a plan. Now, you can't stay on track if you don't know what the track is. You can't go into work with clarity on what you want to get done, on what you want your team to get done, on who's accountable, who's responsible, if you haven't got a clue where you're going. Because if you're not thinking about where you're going in 5 years' time, you're already there. So having a really good plan in place so that you know, because I speak to lots of people that say, yeah, I have got a plan, I've got a business plan. They're brilliant, where is it? And they go, oh gosh, I think it's in a file somewhere. Now, if a business plan isn't referred to at least once a week to find out what you're going to be doing the next week, it's no good to you. So I'm going to show you how I do my planning process. So the first part is having a vision. A vision for the company, but before you have the vision for the company, it's a vision. Oh, let me take your screen share because that will be a postage stamp for you all, won't it? Is that better? Can you see that? Thank you for squinting at that, Ian. That helped out. So we've got a vision for the future. So we want to know where, you know, when I first meet people, they start talking about where they want their business to be, and I'll stop them and backtrack to where do you want your family to be? Because that's why you're doing it, isn't it? You want to take your family to a place yourself, and you want to create a life for yourself. So what's that? Because if that's not aligned to your business, you're just building a nightmare. So it's really important. I did that. My first business, if someone had asked me what my business plan was, I'd have scoffed at them the same way I did at hairdressers the other day and said, my business plan is to go as fast as I can, as much as I can, as fast as I can. What other plan would you want? Duh. And then I built a staffing agency, and I built it as fast as I could, where people had my phone number, and some of them started work at 5 o'clock in Newcastle, and some of them finished at midnight in Liverpool, and they all had my phone number because I didn't design the business, because I didn't enjoy that, by the way, and I didn't design the business. So I built this thing, and it made my life a misery, which is why I eventually sold it. So once we know what direction we're headed, then we can then start to plan. So what we'll then do is we'll do a 3-year plan, which will be quite brief. It just really, what is the business going to look like in 3 years' time? What do we want it to look like? How much revenue, how much profit? And if we've got that much revenue, did we need another branch in Bournemouth? And what does the team structure look like? How much marketing will we need to get to that £5 million mark and all that kind of stuff? So once we've got the year plan, sorry, the 3-year plan, we can do a 1-year plan, which has got a different feel to it, which is, okay, what absolutely has to happen to get us on that first step? Because we're reverse engineering the thing that we want. And then we've got the year plan. We can then break that down further into 90 days or quarters. And then the way that I do that is through a simple Gantt chart. You have all the actions, and hopefully they're not all for the business owner. They're getting delegated out for the team, but they're in week by week columns for the Gantt chart, which means you've got a week plan. And then from that week plan, you can create your to-do list. And it's only at this very bottom point can you get traction. You can only get traction at that point because the to-do list is now. You can only do it, you can only do things now. Can't do it today, can't do it tomorrow. So it's really important that that to-do list, if that to-do list is not pointing directly at the vision through those other plans, then you're just being reactive. And that's not all of the, it won't be all of the to-do list, because there'll be some working in the business. But if at least 20% of your to-do list is not specifically designed to get you to your end goal, which is you're selling your business for £5 million, or you're retiring and your son taking over, or whatever that looks like for you, if you're not doing that on a daily basis, then you're never going to get there. And that's the simple truth of it. Does anyone have any questions on that planning process? Hands up, by the way, if you hate planning. Yeah, normally most people, me too, which is why I make it really, really simple. So what I would like to do, I want to make an offer for people based on that, because I know I can help with that. For my clients, I do a growth club, I call it, which is a quarterly planning day. The next one is on the 3rd of July. It will be virtual because of where we are. And I'd like to invite anybody here who would like to come to it. I was going to invite people for free, and then I changed my mind. And the reason I changed my mind is because I want people to come out of that with a robust plan and not waste their time. And there's a chance that if I give it to you for free, then you might jump on that call and sort of half listen and not come out of it with a plan and not commit to it. So I'm offering you that for £100. It's a commitment. And I'll talk to you a bit more about that. Liz is asking how long we're going. This is the last couple of slides, Liz.
No, I think she means how long is that session?
Yeah.
Yes. I get you now. I thought you were getting bored.
No.
Thanks for the clarification. So it'll be about 3 hours, Liz. And in that session, there's me and another coach who'll work on it together. So there's we do a bit of business education, but mostly, you know, I found that, you know, the amount of people that put their hands up when we said, do you like who hates planning, is most people. So the original plan was we lock people in the room and make them do it. Now we're going to lock them into a Zoom call and make them do it. So we just take you through the process. So you come out of that with a robust plan. Now I'm aware, like people that are working with me, we've gone through this whole process. So actually it's quite easy to do that 90-day plan. Now, whenever I do these webinars, I get lots of people in the comments go, oh, that's a brilliant idea. I really like to do that. And then when I follow up, we get the law of diminished intent happens and people don't follow through. And I'd like people to follow through, whether we engage long-term as a client or we don't. I just don't want you to waste your time. So what I'm also going to do is for people that take action today, I'm going to offer a free 1-to-1 hours call before that so that we can talk about the context of this here so that it makes more sense when you're doing the 90-day plan. So that's a free offer for you, but only if you take action today. I'm going to put a link in the group chat. I'm going to put 2 links in there, in fact. The first one that says go cardless is so you could just book and pay for that and commit to it right now. The second one is to book a 15-minute call into my diary. So if you're not sure or you want to ask me about it, whether you're not sure whether you want to commit the time or the money, because the time's worth more than that money, I can assure you of that, then by all means, book a call with me and we can talk through and see if it's the right thing for you to do right now. And either way, if you book the call today or you book the session today, I'll do that call with you beforehand to make sure that you get most out of the session. How's that sound? Yes, Ian, question.
Can anybody go on that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can't, if you wanted to bring somebody else as well, the same offer will go apply. Good question. Bring more people. I like the referrals. So I'm just going to go back and summarize everything, the 5 steps that we talked about in a slightly different context, because when I meet business owners, quite often they haven't really understood ownership yet. And I help them understand ownership, that the fish stinks from the head down. And what they're looking for me initially is how I can make them more effective, how I can get their team working better and all that kind of thing. And it's a little bit of sell them what they want and give them what they need, because we go, yeah, we'll definitely do that. And then we start working together. Oh, by the way, the fish stinks from the head down. We've got to work on you first. But I'm actually just going to go through the 5 points as a summary of how you can help your team apply the same things only after you've applied them yourself. Because if you don't apply them yourself, you'll never hold them to a higher standard than you will yourself. So thinking about the discipline of your team, keeping the main thing the main thing. How can you work with your team to make sure that they are not on their phones the entire time, so they are keeping focused on there's my wife just out the door. So they're keeping focused on the main task, and they are not helping them to understand, actually, you didn't need to interfere with that. You know, it's a need for significance, a need for importance. Just leave them to it. Trust them to move on. Be disciplined to stay on the path, and you can help them with that. Also, once you've mastered the time management yourself, you can get everybody in your team to have a default diary. And then you can all refer to each other's default diaries, so you can see how, so you can see when you can book in conversations with each other, and you can all learn and train to respect each other's time. And you ban just a minute. Have you got a minute? Have you got a minute? Just, it's not allowed. You know, book time. So those structured communications is booking those meetings with them one-on-one. I normally recommend one on a Monday, which is a work in progress meeting, group one, and then on a Thursday, a one-to-one. So those are their times to have these conversations, not whenever they feel like it or just because they're bored. Communal offices are one of the biggest distractions, because people like me, when they get bored, they take everybody else out of the game. So having like a signal, a headphone that means I'm in flow, bugger off and leave me alone. Or I've had clients where they've got a flag. When they put the flag up, it means bugger off and leave me alone, I'm busy. And then they take the flag down. So it's a good way of communicating, so you don't take each other out of their flow. So we've got clarity. So not only are you going to start giving instructions to your team with more clarity, but how can they talk to their customers with more clarity? How can they waggle with their customers? And of course, it's not what a good job looks like, but if you need something from the client in order to do what you to deal with them efficiently, be really, really clear, so you're not bouncing emails to and fro. Like, give them a list of your expectations, so you can train your team to do that when they're interacting with their team. And everybody can have their own 90-day plan, week by week plan, so that they know what their part of the, once you've done this, they can know what part they have in the bigger wheel and the bigger journey, and they can manage their own progress through that. And then when you have your weekly meetings with them, you can say, well, let's have a look at your 90-day plan, see what progress you've made. Why are you behind on that? But well done, Biff, for being ahead on that and getting that completed. And if you do that, it's just simple management techniques that are going to make sure that everybody's on board. So I've got some final thoughts for you. My final thought is this. I'm going to do a flip chart. Let me take that off shares so you don't all have to squint. Can you all see me full screen now? My full screen, thank you. So when I work with people, gosh, that says have. That's awful handwriting, even worse than my normal. We want to have an outcome. When I start working with a client, there's something that they want to have fixed or attain. Now, most people know, in order to have something, there's things that you need to do. in order to have them. But the part that most people miss out is who are you going to be in order to do that? Now, let me give you an example of that. If the outcome that you wanted to have was you'd like to have a romantic relationship, now we all know you need to go and do dating, whatever that looks like these days. It looks terrifying. I think swiping left and swiping right and goodness knows what. But we'll need to do dating. But if you are in a place where you are still whinging about your ex, or you talk about yourself and you don't talk about them, you're not going to have a very successful date. And you're going to have to do an awful lot of dating before you have your outcome. So to give you another idea, let's just say you want to have 100 of something. So maybe that's 100 pounds or 100,000 pounds worth of sales, or it's 100. You want to sell 100 units of whatever you've got. But the problem is, what if you're rubbish at sales? You'll be you haven't worked on yourself as a salesperson, and you're all in business. Everybody on this call is a salesperson, and if you think you're not, that's the start of the problem. So if you've got that, if you're not very good at sales and you want to achieve 100 worth of sales, what's got to happen? You've got to do a whole lot of selling in order to get your result. Now, thinking about 100 here, now if you work on yourself as a salesperson and you get better at it, you learn skills, you learn about people, you learn about communication, you learn about showing value, you get better at it. Now, we can do an awful lot less, because this webinar is about doing less. Now, I reckon when I start working with people, if they're here at 2 on something, 6 to 18 months, I'll have them here. So they're significantly increased and their doing is massively reduced. Because if you heard the phrase, a busy fool. You're a busy fool because if you're not very good at what you're doing, you have to do an awful lot of it. So the more skilled you are, the more efficient you can be with your time, and you can shoot fish in a barrel rather than shoot fish in the ocean. So, and I say that after 4 to 7 years, I can get people to such a level of their education that their B is massive. So if that's the case, for the same outcome, if we do that, we can get more than you ever thought was possible by working on you as a person. Unless, be my guest, if you just want to carry on doing and doing and doing more and more and more, crack on, let me know how that works out. But my final thought is that work on becoming this person so you can do an awful lot less and you'll have a higher impact and you will have a better life and a better business. So I'm going to be available for questions. That's the end of my webinar. The offer is going to stand. So if anyone wants to book a call, if you book a call or book and pay for the event today, I'll do that free call with you as well on top of that. Anyone wants to stay around now on the Zoom and ask me any questions, they can, and you can stay and listen to other people's questions. But I obviously, this time management was one of the things, and I promised you it would be 45 minutes. I lied, I'm 7 minutes over. So if anyone needs to jump off. But if anyone wants to stay, ask any questions or give me any comments, you can do that too.
Just a comment, as in, thanks, Jeff. I thought it was really useful. I do have to shoot off because I've got a call at 4. But no, I thought that was great. Again, any links or whatever, get them over to us, and I can definitely promote that.
Great, thank you. And I'll send out the recording if anyone wants to review it.
Cool, brilliant. Well, must shoot. But many thanks, Jeff.
So if you want to do the event, just grab those links before you jump off the call. In fact, I'm going to send them out to you anyway. So, but I'll
send them. Okay, mate. All right, cool. Many thanks. Got to go, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Nice to see you.
Send them out, Jeff, please.
I will do.
And you just click on the link, and it's easy to tick the box, yeah?
Yeah. Just it takes the money, and then I'll book you on.
Okay.
Or you can book the call, whichever link it is that you're looking at. Excuse me.
Okay.
So feel free to go unless you have any questions, or you'd just like to heap praise and adoration at how wonderful that webinar was.
Oh, great with praise and adoration. There are so many of those 1 Minute Manager books now. I mean,
tons.
Yeah, I'll go away, whoever you are.
But that one is the one I recommend.
Yeah.
It's an absolute lifesaver for people who have got teams who are carrying monkeys. But also, we carry the monkeys of our clients unnecessarily sometimes as well.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Right, I've got to shoot as well. I'll see you Friday, I guess.
Yep.
See you later. Bye, Liz.
Hey, Paul.
Bye, Georgina.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Chris. Chris is on the call, but you've been lurking. You haven't put your video on today or said anything. So if you'd like to pop on and say hello, you can.
I've got to go, Jeff, but thanks again for your time. It's been
You're
good.
welcome. Nice to see you.
See you later.
Say hi to your mum for me.
I will do.
Right, I'm going to stop the recording.